Hey, Pastor Steve Waldron. I hope you're having an incredible day or night in Jesus. Thank you so much for being with us. We're looking today at narcissism in the church. Now, for the past several years, narcissism's kind of been like a cottage industry on YouTube. I've had people in our church sending me videos, seemingly sometimes on a very regular basis, on narcissism. There's been a couple times I've decided to watch some of those videos, especially if they weren't too long. I rarely watch videos people send unless they're very short. Articles, different story, because I can go through an article 1, 2, 3 minutes normally. I certainly just don't have enough time to watch videos on a regular basis, but I do sometimes, especially maybe if it's in the background or something like that. So narcissism, again, this cottage industry, people are like, well, what is narcissism? Well, it's an exalted opinion of oneself. I remember reading a book by M. Scott Peck many years ago. I read it 3 times, I think, because I liked it so well. It's called The Road Less Traveled, which the road less traveled is love, which obviously love would be the opposite of narcissism, at least true love. I know there's self-love and all this. And that brings us to kind of the subject of this, because the Bible actually said that in the last days, the very first sign of several things that Paul mentioned in 1 Timothy 3, in the last days, people will be lovers of their own selves. So we see that a lot in the church. I can remember there used to be so many pure people in church and just love people. I come from a line of people. Now, I never really knew my grandmother on my mother's side, which would be her mother. I've been told, when I did know her, she lived to be 87, but she had Alzheimer's, that she was one of the most godly people anybody ever knew. I do know, even as a young man, when she didn't have much in the realm of coherent thoughts, but she would just sing hymns constantly, and she could remember those just incredibly. And so my mother and her sisters, true religion and undefiled before God and the Father is this: to visit the fatherless and the widows in their affliction, and keep yourself unspotted from the world. And so I just grew up when I was with Mom. She took a widow to church every week. She always took care of Miss Boswell, but others, just widows. She just always cared for widows. And then when I would go stay maybe with a sister, Aunt Bet, that's what we did basically all day. If she had a rotation at nursing homes, as they called them, we call them personal care homes now, and she just visited people because they were like, well, this is what the Bible commands us to do. And for the most part, they were very non-narcissistic people. They were more blessed to give than to receive, as Jesus said, Acts 20:35. And so narcissism has come into the church, and it's very sad. And my wife and I were talking about this today, that there's people in the church, we know lots of people that are after position more than they're after Jesus. And so getting back to that purity of heart, blessed are the pure in heart, they shall see God, fruit of the Spirit of goodness, just doing the right thing, not to be seen, not to be heard, but just doing it because it's right. And, I preach about this sometimes. I'm sure you've thought about it, considered it, that, God made David king because he wasn't seeking to be king. He was seeking God. Promotion cometh not from the east or the west or the south. Promotion cometh from the Lord. He raises up one, puts down another. And so, there's so much narcissism in the church. And then there's actually churches of narcissism, some of the health and wealth gospel. I do want to say we need a balanced understanding of that, and that God, wants to do us good and these type things, and we can be blessed, and it's okay to be blessed, but we should never seek the blessings. We should really seek the blesser, and that's really the blessed, like having food and raiment, therewith be content, as Scripture says. And 1 Timothy 6 is a wonderful discussion by Paul. Jesus did much in the Gospels, but on the love of money and those that will be rich and that type thing. So narcissism is just an exalted opinion of oneself. I had a friend, Tom Weiser, he's an incredible researcher, tremendous. I recommend all of his books. They're just fantastic on church history and these type things. But he taught a lesson for us one time on basic Christian living. He was out there with Brother Chalfant's assistant for quite some time. And on this basic Christian living, he said humility is a proper opinion of yourself. We tend to think it's thinking less of yourself, but see, that would be a lie. It's just having a proper opinion of yourself. But we even sing songs sometimes that get me a little creeped out about God, he thought you were to die for. I understand that, he did. But then the way that's said in popular culture sometimes, well, they're to die for and all this, that we just got to be careful about that. So Jesus, yes, he did think we were to die for. I understand that. But we don't want narcissism to be in the church. And sometimes even the way we dress, the way we present ourselves, it's one thing to be a holiness Pentecostal, holy body, soul, spirit, but sometimes even you can dress in such a way and be legal but prideful. And a proud look, that's one of the abominations to God. So I want to make sure we check our heart at the door, and just say, okay, God, let's make sure I've got proper motives, and humbling ourselves under the mighty hand of God. That old Booth Cliburn message from 1921 about humbling ourselves in dust and ashes. I don't know that we need dust and ashes per se, but maybe the spirit of dust and ashes, so to speak, where we're just, keep an attitude. Every man is my superior in some way, in that I learn of him. That's Emerson, but Paul says much the same things about preferring your brother and this type thing. So just make sure narcissism doesn't get in your heart, because it is the end time hour. And instead of us being like Jesus, the way he desires, we can let the world fit us into its mold. And we don't need to let the world get into the ark of safety. We need to keep the judgments of God out. So we love you. God bless. Narcissism, keep it out of the church. Bye-bye.